You don't look very intimidated by all this. Look at all those people. That doesn't intimidate you. For you, skip right over here with me, dog. I have something I want to read to everybody. Today is 11, 12, 6, 20. What year is it, Oliver? 2022. That was a test. Would you stay here with me, Oliver? Thank you. Aniston, are you here? There's Aniston. Hi, Aniston. Aniston has a book written about it. You have to bear with me. Aniston is nominated by her teachers with an S, and they made a lot of very uplifting, and I can see why, comments about this young lady. Now, I'm not given the evidence that they are Mr. or Mrs. So I'm just going to say the teacher's last name. I'm assuming Philpott is Mr. C. You see? So from heretofore, I will just say their last name, meaning no disrespect. Philpott. Aniston has really come out of her shell in the flying class this year. In August, she wanted no part of anchoring our morning news show. But now she regularly appears, and she does an outstanding job. In class, she willingly does whatever is asked of her and usually does it above and beyond the expectation. She is a leader in our class and encourages other students to make good decisions and helps to keep us focused, including Miss Philpott. She is creative, meticulous, with plain, media center projects, and I am so glad that she is stepping up, even if it means getting out of her comfort zone. Mrs. Rover, award for outstanding student. It is presented to you by Charles Goodman, the mayor of the city of Williston. This is to certify that Anderson Corbett, and I was just told this in the hallway a few minutes ago. Corbett is awarded this certificate for academic excellence, leadership, citizenship, and attendance at Williston Middle High School. Thank you for joining us tonight. Could you show that to everybody out there? What's the date? What year? The good news is our two fine young people both know what year it is. I would like you both to hold your awards out toward the audience. If anybody would like to take pictures of them, come in here right in front of me. Including the Mac family.
consist of the council meeting minutes of November the 8th. I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda if there is no. I move that we approve the consent agenda. Have a motion and a second. We have any discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 6 is unfinished business. Staff, board, and council updates. The interim city manager, Terry Bogard.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll be brief. So there's two things that we have several things on the agenda. The two things that I wanted to talk about that aren't real quick is the contract for the community action committee. They have, and so we're waiting for them to sign that and return back to us. So we're just still waiting for them to come on board. There's another issue that we have that Jonathan Bishop can speak to if you like, but I'll cover real quickly is the top of the hill well has had a malfunction. So we're going to have to replace a pump there. And this is kind of an emergency kind of thing. So we're going to go ahead and purchase the pump for it. And we suspect it will be anywhere from $10,100 to $17,000, depending on which pump we buy, the rebuild or the new one, to have it installed. But as you know, that's we have to have that
This is a different one than we had previously.
Well, we had problems out of that one also, but this is a different part of the pump system. Yes, ma'am. So it's the same well. But we worked on a well before. This is a wellhead motor, totally separate. The company question I have really is there's a difference between the new one, which is $17,000 and the used one, which is $10,000. And if we see the used one gets us where we get us,
Yeah, go for it.
my intention is to go for the new one.
Yes, sir.
Let's see, 3 years on the new one, 1 year on the rebuilt one.
Correct.
Go with the new one.
Yes,
So afterwards, then it will come up for the council for budget amendment after the purchase is made. And we'll do a budget amendment. this presentation about what our business, what our friendship plan is about this former middle school in Williston. I have next to me Dr. Zadie as well. Will also be presenting our plans to the council there. Patricia, please go to the next slide. So, thank you. So, in terms of what we're trying to do, our mission statement. Our mission is to help give people trapped under the influence of substance abuse and mental health professionals over there a second chance in life. We believe in offering the best advanced medical treatment coupled with alternative recreational therapies and vocational training to ensure our patients are reintegrated into mainstream society as economically productive participants. That's the management team. So next to me is Dr. Saeed Zaidi. He will be the clinical director and he's the founder of this venture. He's a board certified psychiatrist with over 30 years of medical experience and additional qualifications in addiction psychiatry. Dr. Zadie will talk to you guys in a second as well. I'll just get to the slide. There are a few different areas where he has distinguished his career, especially his service in working with veterans and also working in different facilities treating patients with mental illnesses and addiction and psychiatry. And the other person over here is myself. So I am a finance professional by training. I'm a statistician I have a predominant finance background. Studied and mastered over 12 years of experience working in London, Zurich, and most recently New York. I'm also director of Swiss Investment Bank. Dr. Zadie, I would invite you to make your personal statement.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Zadie. This is inpatient rehab facility. It does not technically under the criteria of a hospital.
Right.
So, but if you see like patients are living here long term, 28 days, up from 28 days to up to 3 months, or sometimes longer if they are living for PHP, partial hospitalization. So the usually like the process is that detox is from 7 to 14 days. After 14 days, inpatient is 28 days. So after 28 days, partial hospitalization with residence is usually 8 weeks, and after 8 weeks, it is called intensive outpatient program. It is also for 4 to 8 weeks. So altogether, the full program is around about 4 to 6 months if they complete. Some people like complete the full programs, so they are the most successful one, and some people they just want to finish inpatient from our facility, and then they want to go back to their community for the PHP or IOP outpatient program, so we can refer them to their, we can make a connection with them. So we will not send them on the street, so we will send them to their own community so they can complete the whole program. So that is very important to complete, so it will decrease the relapse rate for that. So because I know that relapse is very common and frequent if they are just left alone. So we will stick to them even if there is somewhere. So we will have connected to them, so they should not relapse. So we will help them to go to AA meeting, NA meetings, so whatever we can do for them, and also help them to find a job and all that thing. So this is my goal.
Okay, I see a hand back here, Chief Rose.
Chief Rose, you spoke earlier about, it's a voluntary program, which means they can leave at any time. And you spoke about ensuring that they would go back to their communities. Are you going to provide transportation for them to go back to their community? And how are you going to do that if it's a voluntary program?
Yes, we will provide, the transportation is will be included, pick and drop. Most of the program they do transportation also. We will, if they are coming from outside, we will pick them from the airport and drop them back to the airport or wherever they want to go. So that transportation will be included in our program. So that is part of the program, transportation.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, so step number one, we need a public hearing, and we need to invite the community, especially the residents. And obviously, if we're going to do an annexation or a zoning change, we would have to notify them anyway. But I would rather do that before we get to that step, before these gentlemen waste their money on a zoning application or an annexation application. Let's get a feel for the community. I feel like we really need to do that. I agree. Okay, so let us see how quickly we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have turned the page. We're on page 2 at the top, and we have pulled 7B. So we are currently at 7C. Discussion with possible action, Monterey boat expansion. Airport Manager Benton Stegall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. We had an issue with Monterey boats that was reported by a concerned citizen. Basically, just off of 25th, I think it was 25th Street. Oh, we have the map. Amazing.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Thank you so much, Latricia. I was worried that it didn't get put in the slideshow. But, all right, so if you look at the map, Section J on the map is an area where Monterey Boats started to develop a paved parking lot. Now, if you look at the rest of it, you'll notice, Section G is a first right of refusal. It's not technically part of their lease as it stands for their main campus. So when we were notified by this concerned citizen, we, basically we stopped their operation, and they came to us and said, well, what can we do to keep it moving? And Terry and I have been talking and working with them pretty diligently on what we need to do to get things made right for, one, the citizens, and two, the city and the organization as well, and try to make it to where everything can still move forward and nobody's really disturbed one way or the other. Now, the big issue with them developing this section, aside from being outside of their lease, is right on the other side of that section. You can see a little dirt road. Right on the other side of that dirt road is a residential area. So this area is zoned industrial and butts up right next to a residential area. So our intent in allowing Monterey to develop this would be to protect the citizens of the county, because this is just outside city limits, because the airport is the city limits. To protect the residents of the county by requiring Monterey Boats to put in a buffer, a vegetation buffer. That way they wouldn't have to see the buildings or the goings on at Monterey Boats on a day-to-day basis. Mr. Pita has somewhat verbally agreed to this. We haven't gotten down into specifics yet, but he hasn't given us an outright no. He's actually pretty warm to the idea. So given that they put in a hedge barrier between the industrial park and the citizens, we believe that with talking with legal counsel and everything, the best course of action for this, to remedy this, would be to get Monterey Boats to survey Section J and make them pay for the survey, and then bring this back as a essentially an amendment or a first right of refusal to add to the main campus lease. And feel free to step in anytime, Terry or Kirsten, if you need to.
So essentially what you would be doing is, after you have the legal description of Area J, then we would execute an acknowledgement of the lessor's right of first refusal, but specifically to that area. We'd include that legal description in that acknowledgement, and then we can calculate the increase in their rent based upon that amount of acreage only, because that's what they've exercised. So they would retain the rest of G and all of F as additional rights of first refusal, but they would then be executing their right to this J parcel right here, and that would be the basis for the increase in their rent. Does that make sense?
However, according to Exhibit A on their main campus lease, their rent would then be abated once the property is developed.
Correct.
Say that again?
Once the property is developed, according to Exhibit A on the main campus lease, their rent for that section would be abated.
Would be part of the abatement that they currently have.
Yes.
My question is on G, because G wraps all the way around and goes to the left, or to the right, our right. Do we need to rename that portion rather than leave it sitting out there without a name?
Legally, it doesn't have a name. This is a hasty map that I put together on PowerPoint.
I mean, I realize it's all G.
Right, but
and we're carving out a piece and leaving a tail over here by itself.
So G doesn't technically exist. Like as it's legally described, G is not a legal description.
Okay.
On this map, I took the legal descriptions as defined by the leases and kind of hammered out the barrier lines or the points as close as I could. This is not a legally binding document. This is a tool for us to quick reference this stuff. So the letter designations is just a tool for us to be able to use as a quick reference point instead of saying this building versus that building versus that building versus this plot of land. It's merely a tool. It's not a legal.
So we're
legally
still going
binding
to
thing.
call it the legal description and carve a piece out of the middle.
Correct. So what you
That's what I'm
have,
asking, I
Yes.
guess.
what
Yes,
you
ma'am.
have right now in your lease is a legal description of G
Sure.
in whole. So
Which
what-
includes J at
which
this time.
includes J at this time. So what we're gonna do is have Monterey Boats survey it, get a legal description of J, the parcel that they're trying to exercise right of first refusal on,
Right.
and we'll carve out that section for their right of first refusal. The remaining portions of G, as described in your current lease, will remain as rights of first refusal, just unexercised.
But we don't need to call it anything different.
I don't think that we do right now. I mean, and this is, to Benton's point, this is just sort of what we're referencing. I mean, on our map, we could label it K now, but it's still described in what you have in your legal description right now in the lease.
Okay? And we skipped I for some reason and have two H's.
That's a typo on my behalf. The
Okay.
two H's are H and I, parcel 7 and parcel 8.
Thank you very much.
I apologize
You're
for that.
confusing me. All right, great. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Stiegel? So I guess you need to bring back right of first refusal with the proper surveyed legal description.
So we'll make sure that Monterey Boats will need to get the survey first. So we'll get the survey, we'll get the legal description, and then we'll come back to you with an acknowledgement of their exercise of that portion.
And they need all their permits before they start
Yes.
next time, including a Swift Mud permit,
Yes.
because they don't have one of those either.
In the conversation with the gentleman from Monterey Boats, is that going through email or just verbal?
Some of it was tracked through email traffic, and some of it was verbal. I mean, if you would like us to document a little bit better on the email side, we could do that.
We're going to put it in writing sooner or later,
Right.
so,
Still, if you come down to he said, she said.
Well, when we do the carve out, we'll have to put it in there.
We'll
Yeah.
make sure that all of the parts of our agreement are reduced to a signed
Absolutely.
agreement.
And I think if you're looking for some memorialization of the event that occurred, we can obviously do that if it's not already captured by email, at least the content of it. Is that what Mr. Cox you're looking for?
Perfect. Okay, so you'll bring it back to us, and we don't need any action tonight. All right, thank you. All right, we're moving to item D, discussion with possible action review of the September 2022 financial report. Mr. Bloom,
Good evening.
thanks for being here.
Good evening. Happy to be here. I wanted to kind of present an overview of what is your unaudited at this point, September 2022 financials. And I'll go through each of the funds and kind of talk about the highlights and then I'll end this kind of talking about what's next. This is not the last you'll see of 2022. We've got some other things to do. So in looking at general fund, the overall for the year, the budget was to utilize 90,000 of your cash reserves. That was what was budgeted. As of right now, you've only needed to use 25,000 of it. So again, that's very positive. Obviously, as we're moving forward, we're making we're making strides to kind of not have to use cash reserves at all, and then start building cash reserves. I'm just kind of moving you a little bit forward in terms of what we'll be talking about throughout 2023 and into the budget process. Is really what you're seeing here is that you had to utilize cash reserves. You only have finite cash reserves. So obviously there's other expenses that we'll have to talk about, but I wanted to just kind of mention that as we go through this. Overall, property taxes about 98% collected. For those of you who don't know, that anybody who still owes money on property taxes, that doesn't go away. just because they didn't pay. It's attached to their property and we'll get delinquent taxes, moving forward. And a lot of times when I'm seeing it, I'll see delinquent taxes going back 5, 6 years that we're just getting. I mean, small amounts, but we still, it's still on there. When you look at terms of spending, some of these things I wanted to mention because there's offsets. We always talk about the spending, we don't always look at that. But for example, P&Z and building expenses, when you look at the bottom right, and it's a little bit harder, I don't know if you can make that larger to see, but what I've done on some of these charts is, in this case, anything that's in blue or above the red line means it's over budget. And so I always like to explain what that means, and more importantly, talk about offsets. So for example, the highest one there is your P&Z and your building. And I wanted to mention that there's $155,000 that offsets that. In other words, you've got quite a bit of permitting activity, and that's why your expenses are higher. It's kind of like when we talk about the airport, the fuel costs has gone up because the fuel revenue has gone up, and it's always a good thing. In terms of fire, we've talked about fire quite a bit. That's the next one, really, in terms of the one we always look at. But again, two things I wanted to mention about that is one, there's also additional offset revenue that we build besides what's billed to the county as the one-offs. We have, the regular one-off hourly amounts. That's another $16,000 that comes back in. The other thing I wanted to mention, and it's not, we talked about this before, is that fire had actually quite a bit of vehicle repairs that goes into that. And again, we found ways to come up with revenue for it, grant-wise, but it's still an expenditure. And when you're lining up against the budget, it's still going to kick out as a big number. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing for the general fund, and this is just your number for the general fund, $122,000 for vehicle fuel. We've been talking about the gas side for natural gas, but it's really all over the place, and that's certainly not something we budgeted for. And those are really kind of your big ticket items. The good thing was kind of ending with the good side. In terms of revenue, you wound up 106% of your budget. You budgeted about $3.8 million, and you wound up about $3.83. So I mean that is good, even though you did overspend as expected. You did have additional revenue, so that's a good side. Okay, looking at the airport. So overall on the airport, and this is everything, about $24,000 surplus. And I say everything because this is one of the few times that the airport has actually started to invest in the future. I think if you go back several years, the airport fund was in a deficit, to the tune of a little bit over $330,000. I always mention that because it's always good to remember where you came from. Mm-hmm. Right now, they have an available reserve of $312,000 positive. And that's with this year them actually putting money into infrastructure, non-grant infrastructure. So that is very good. When you look at their year-over-year fuel sales, increased by 81%. And in addition to that, there was timber revenue, not a huge amount this year. I think more of that you'll see in 2023 as we talk about the next quarter. They were able to reduce their AR allowance. It was hovering around, possibly going up to almost $75,000 by year end. And now it's down to $50,000 and going down further. Really doing a good job with that. About $750,000 in airport spending. And really the only reason why I mention that is that's covered by grants, but that is cash money out that we are waiting to get back in. So it's important to keep an eye on that. Overall, very successful year for the airport. Okay, the CRA has had some decent activity at the end of the year. I mention that is because for the CRA, similar to the airport, and every dollar in stays. So whatever their fund balance is 100% slotted for the CRA. At year end, they have a little bit over $500,000 that they're carrying over into 2023. I know they've got some plans already for that. During the year, they spent a little bit over $400,000 in projects, Main Street or the Arcade. So, some real good activity for there, and again, $500,000 kind of carrying forward, and that's what should be for your next budget. CalLink, really kind of just tracking the grant revenue. That's really the only thing coming through right now. So the balance, again, these are the unaudited numbers, about $64,000 that's left on what amounts to the first tier of that grant. So really, like I said, no additional revenue besides grant money. Okay, so now we're left with the utility fund. So the budget for the utility fund was to use up I'm rounding $16,000 of cash reserves. Right now, unaudited, it's about $321,000. So, kind of in the last quarter, they were coming up better than budget, and they so far have finished better than budget. But again, as we talked about when we looked at the rates, there was a reason why we talked about needing to go up in rates, and $321,000, that's, the deficit for the year. All services, except for gas and sewer, and really kind of go to the next page as I talk about this. So we talk about operating versus what is the net income. Operating is before the transfer to the general fund. Not that you can't not do the transfer, but looking at the operating kind of shows you if there are any significant holes. Gas lost about $128,000 just in operating, even before the transfer. Sewer basically, a little bit of a loss, but kind of broke even. Electric made about $586,000, which is still down from prior years. I think, again, we've talked about the gas and the rates and why and what went on, so this is just kind of showing you what happened. But overall, before the transfer, the utility fund made about $578,000. After the transfer, which was $900,000, then they have your loss of $321,000. So in terms of what's next, at this stage, for 2022, we're doing a complete audit, internal audit. I mean, you'll have a secondary external audit that'll get done, but I go through and look at all of your grants, look at all of the invoices, make sure everything's been reimbursed. We've already been talking about all of that. Just kind of going through the reserves, all of the book entries now get recorded. We talk about the fund depreciation that happens now. It basically is, we prepare for our single audit, which is anytime you're getting money from the federal government, you also have to do a single audit. So all of that gets done now, and then next year we will come back to council with the final audited version of these numbers, and then one more. That'll be the last kind of big look, and that'll be done by your external auditors who will actually present those numbers to you. And with that, we'll kind of go into any questions.
Questions for Mr. Blank? Again, you said it so I could understand it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It helps us see, especially in September, when you can see the last month of the fiscal year. All right. Then we will finally move to Mr. Kaysen. I know he's been very patient with us tonight. We will move to item, where are we? D. Discussion with possible action discussion with possible action, changing from Lincoln Investment to Inspire. And this is given to Mr. Bavard and Mr. Kaysen.
Yeah, Jim, you want me to start, or would you like to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start, and then I'll let Mr. Kaysen fill in where we can. So, as you know, the city has a deferred compensation fund that was created some time back by resolution that we currently have going through Drummond Bank, and then through Nature Coast Financial, and then ultimately through a company called Lincoln. So with the changes to Drummond Bank, to their new name, we'll have a new investment company we'll be working with called Aspire, and basically that's going to require for us to sign a new contract with them to do this. I will tell you this after going through the document with and having some questions from Mr. Kaysen. The services with Aspire is both cheaper and better for the employees. The employees will have an option if they choose to stay with Lincoln, but they'll have to do it on their own. They cannot do it through the city. We can only have one account, and basically one account only. I will tell you that the original investment or deferred compensation plan that was originally signed was signed by the city manager way back when. And certainly I have no issues in signing this one, but we wanted to bring it to y'all to let you know that it is changing. And Mr. Kaysen is going to be talking to, if he has not already, those employees that we have are currently involved in the deferred compensation plan. And I'm assuming you have or have not. Okay. So he'll be talking to each one of them individually, letting them know what their options are. I truly don't see anything changing other than probably the cost is going to get cheaper. Their investments will still be the same. They can still choose what they want to invest in. And I think it's going to come at a lower cost. And unfortunately, though, I don't think we'll see Mr. Kaysen. I believe at some part will be transferred over to somebody else. And I don't know that gentleman's name. You told me, but who is it?
Louis Vera.
Yeah, so there'll be another gentleman, I believe, that will be servicing our account. But we just need to move forward with it. It is time sensitive. Something we do need to get done as soon as we can. And
Is it Inspire or Aspire?
Aspire.
Aspire, okay,
So
it's wrong on our agenda.
Yeah.
Aspire.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So just a little more background on that. Because of the merger with Drummond Bank and Seacoast Bank, Nature Coast Financial Services, all of our employees and our clients will be absorbed into Seacoast Bank's Wealth Management Division. They currently use LPL as a broker-dealer, where we currently use Lincoln Investments. So I currently have 3 other advisors in my office and an office assistant, so there are currently 5 of us. Louis Vera, who is a Williston resident, graduate, will be taking over as the lead on this plan. It is time sensitive. All of the others in my office have already transitioned to LPL Financial. I'm remaining with Lincoln Investment until January 16th, and then they will terminate my contract. But that's so we can facilitate the transfer of all of our clients with me on one side of the fence and the other employees on the
How
other.
many do we have right now, Jimmy?
I think you have about 9. maybe.
Not too many, I know there weren't many in that defined benefit.
Yeah, but I'll just put a plug in for all of y'all that are here. Everybody can sign up, so. So it is time sensitive. So what we would like to do is get the new agreement in place. That'll give me time to open the accounts for the 9 or however many employees are currently participating. We'll let them begin their contributions to Aspire the 1st of January, allow the existing contributions to go to Lincoln through the end of December. Then after the last contribution for December is made, we'll execute the transfer form to move their existing balance into their new account.
Okay, so we need to give permission for our city manager to sign the contract so it's done expeditiously.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
And just on what he said, the architecture inside of both Lincoln and Aspire is an open architecture, which means they can select just about any fund company. So whatever they're holding now, we can hold in the Aspire. It will be a different share class and a different fee structure. They're going to save roughly 1% per year on the cost of their account.
perfect.
So,
And there's no cost to change over.
well, Lincoln is going to charge a termination fee to each participant, but we are reimbursing the fee because it's not the participant's choice to move. So if there are any fees, it will be reimbursed by LPL Financial and
On the
Seacoast
plan,
Bank.
okay. Good. All right. Any questions for either Mr. Bavard or Mr. Casey?
We're good.
All right, so I'd entertain a motion then to allow the city manager to sign the Aspire contract when it is ready.
I move that we agree to let the city manager sign the contract with Aspire.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Casey. Sorry to keep you so long.
No problem. Thank y'all very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think this is a good time for a break. Are y'all all right with that? I know it's a little earlier than we expected, but I think this is a good place.
Gotta make a motion for that, or would you? No.
I second it.
I just called, we're having a recess and we're going to be out maybe 20 minutes.
Thank you.
20 minutes. Ms. Dowd, there are refreshments in the community center if anyone would like